Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about the books I read in the month of July. I have 7 books I read and I also DNFs some. I think at the beginning of the month I was just not picking up the right books for me and I was really in a funny mood after I came back from my holidays, I don't know. The weather was also quite horrible here throughout the whole month. It was very windy and cold, like 19, barely 20 degrees. So it didn't feel like summer at all. So I wasn't really in the mood of reading, I guess. Yeah, but big news is that my reading has improved a lot since I have gotten my glasses. I got these primarily for work because when I came back from holiday, my eyes were hurting and I was crying and my head was hurting when I started again spending so much time in front of a computer. So these glasses help me a lot with the computer, but also with reading, as I could tell afterwards. And I just can't believe that I have read so much before without these, because there is not even comparison. I mean, wow. So if you, for some reason, you also don't feel like reading so much, I also saw myself gravitating more and more towards audiobooks. Now I know why. Check your eyes, maybe you need some glasses. Anyway, let's get into the books. So as I said, before I got these glasses, I wasn't really feeling the reading. And then I was listening to some books, and then I decided to pick up more contemporaries because those are I kind of tend to read them faster, and I was also listening to them. So in total I have 7 books, but I'm not going to talk about all of them here because I'm going to group the contemporary young adult books in a separate video. I read quite a few with similar themes, so I think I'm going to talk about those separately. I have one on the go and one more I have out from the library, so when I finish those 2, there's gonna come a video about all those ones that I read. So I think I'm gonna talk about 4 books here, and then I also DNF'd 2. Celestial Bodies. I don't know how to pronounce this author, so I'm just gonna try Yoka Al-Hati. This won actually the Booker Prize last year, and I've been meaning to pick this up, but I just don't think that I was really in the mood to read a literary fiction like this. And I don't know, something about the writing and how it jumps back and forth in time, it jumps between different perspectives. I just could not really get into it, and I have read actually like 100 pages, and it's not even such a long novel. It's like barely 250 pages, but there you go. This is actually about 3 sisters from Oman and their lives and their marriages or family, and just I think it's mostly centered around their families as far as I can tell, and their upbringing and their respective marriages and so forth. So I think I'll probably give this a go at another point, and maybe I'll try the audiobook. The next one actually really took me by surprise, my next DNF, is because I've never in a million years would have thought that I'm gonna DNF this one. This is such a hyped book and so beloved. And so beloved on YouTube, and it is Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. I really tried. I really tried. I think this is why I went into kind of a reading slump. Really, I gave it a go. I mean, seriously, I read like halfway through this, and I just could not. So this is basically about the twins who were separated at birth, but these are not normal twins. They were engineered by alchemists. So this is set in our present world, but not quite, because there's this kind of secret organization who engineers people, twins, and for a specific purpose. I don't want to tell why, because I don't really get it either. But I just feel that this was so slow moving, not much happening, and I just didn't get it. Let's move on. That's the way it is. I mean, you can't like all of the books. But then let's get into the books that I have actually finished. And the first one is The Night Tiger by Yangsze Choo. I picked this up because this was one of Reese Witherspoon's books from her book club, and also because of the cover. I think it's beautiful. This is a historical fiction. It is set in the 1930s in Malaya. Today it's Malaysia, and it is about these two kids, a younger boy and a little bit older but still teenage girl, whose fates intertwine. And there's a big mystery at the middle of this, and this is very much steeped in Chinese folklore, and there's just elements of colonialism in this, and there's just so much happening. There's also a romantic element and a romantic timeline in this. Despite the mystery element in this just seems so nice and relaxing to read this. I really loved the characters, and I really loved the world and how folklore was intertwined in this story. So basically we have a young houseboy whose master dies at the beginning. The master has lost one of his fingers during an expedition some years ago, and he asks this young boy to retrieve that finger because in this world, I guess, they say that the death cannot rest in peace until the body is whole. So our young houseboy has 49 days to retrieve this finger and put it next to the body in the grave. So he goes on this mission to find this finger, and then he meets another young girl, and then we find out a lot about her situation. Why? Because she's a girl, she cannot go to become a doctor because that's not the profession for women. Because women are expected to marry and have children and just be housewives, I guess. So there's just interesting how all of this is woven together with the mystery and this very cute romance in it as well. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and if you like historical fiction with a little bit of mystery in it, I think you would definitely like this one. I do think that it was a little bit too thick, too long at some points of it, but overall I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 3.75 stars, something like that. So I highly recommend it, and I will definitely check out this author in the future. The next book I read was Blue Monday by Nicci. This is book 1 in the Frieda Klein series. In this series we follow Frieda Klein, who's a psychotherapist who gets involved in these investigations by the police and surrounding mysteries. In this one we follow the disappearance of a young boy. And Frieda Klein has this client, I guess patient you call it correctly, who is dreaming about having this boy. He cannot have children, but he's dreaming about having this boy who he describes, and Frieda discovers that this boy is oddly familiar to the boy who disappeared. So we go on from there. And I love the mystery elements in it. I love that this wasn't heavily focused on the detective investigation, even though it was, but I feel a lot of it was also Frieda Klein and her investigation, which didn't feel so detective procedural-y, I would say. So I love that those two elements were kind of combined really well. For me, I would say it worked really well. And I love how we also focused heavily on who Frieda is, her relationship with her family, her boyfriend. She's kind of a mystery. We don't know a lot about her, and I can feel that there's more and more gonna be discovered throughout this series. And I think that's what really pulled me in. The mystery was also really well done. I guessed some of the plots, which I was not mad about at all. I haven't guessed them all, so that was good. I really love this, as you can tell, and I'm happy I picked it up. Actually, a few of the booktube channels I follow have raved about this series, so I'm happy I gave them a go, and I'm gonna continue with this. I think I gave these 4 stars, and I highly recommend it. So the last 2 books I want to talk about are both fantasy, and the first one I finished in July was Starsight. I always say Skyward. I can't ever. Why are these two names so similar in my head? Skyward, Starsight. It's not the same, yet in my head they're kind of the same. It's weird. Anyway, it was the second book in the Skyward series by Sanderson, which is a young adult science fiction following our young female character who is a pilot. She dreams to be a pilot, and she wants to be just as good of a pilot as her father was, who has died unfortunately when she was younger and branded a coward. So these people live on this planet, and basically they live on the ground. They can't live above the ground because their planet is constantly under attack by aliens. So Spencer wants to be a pilot in order to fight these aliens off. And they're just so funny and so, I mean, just basically a fluffy, not too fluffy, but a fluffy-ish, light-hearted sci-fi, I would say, with some really heavy topics as well. I wouldn't say that this is fluffy. How many times can I say fluffy? Because there are some hard-hitting subjects and themes discussed in this one. But I think what makes this funny and fluffy for me is that Spencer has a spaceship who has an AI who is kind of funny called Nbot, and it's just, I mean it's just so funny for me to follow and to just listen to their banter. Anyway, the second book expands this world as Spencer leaves her planet and she goes to this alien ship, which is kind of that big ship in Star Wars. What is that name? Death Star, I would say. In my mind, it was like the Death Star. She went to there and she met all these different aliens and these different beings, and she had to fight. Also, she was like kind of in a pilot school there, and in order to fight the bigger evil. But I guess it was interesting for me because Spencer didn't know anyone apart from her family and her own people who were humans. And she went and discovered who these aliens are, who she fought before, but also discovered so many other alien species in this universe, in this world. And I really love how the world expanded, and there was a lot of space training here, just like in the first one. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I think I liked the first book better. And I can see that this is kind of a bridge book between 1 and 3, which is normally the case in fantasy. So I'm definitely gonna pick up the third book, which is, I think, gonna be the conclusion of this series. I mean, I love Sanderson and his works, and I'm happy to say that I really love his this young adult series, because I have previously read another young adult series by him, the Reckoner series, which I really did not gel with. But let's move on to the other book I read, because I need to make dinner soon. So, and this is quite heavy and chunky. It's heavy because it's a library copy, but also it's heavy because it's long. It's like 650 pages. And it is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I read the Poppy War like 1.5 years ago, and I really loved it. It is an adult fantasy, but we follow a young girl who is really working hard. In the first book, in the Poppy War, she's really working hard and learning her butt off, basically, to get into this very elite military academy called Skyward in the capital. She is from the south. Her skin is a bit darker as well, so when she goes to this military academy, everyone looks down upon her because she comes from this province which is not so wealthy, and with her skin color and with her accent, she is not from the capital, everyone can tell, and basically she has to fight to earn her place. And she discovers that she has magical powers. There's this guy she really likes who also has magical powers, and they go on an adventure. and it's just amazing. I like how the first book really goes from now we're in an academy and military academy studying and all that environment straight to war and being in like the middle of political intrigue, an invasion. It's just so much happening in the first book that I was really hooked. So I was hoping for the same for this, and it wasn't. It was still a great book, but for many pages I was thinking, oh God, there's nothing happening here. Oh God, let something happen in the next page. So I think around halfway point, the pace picked up much more. And then the second part and the last 100 pages, I would say, were really great. I really liked that, and I really liked how it ended, and I can't wait to continue this series. But I was kind of disappointed with the first part, but I do understand why this was so slow, because basically in the first book we follow Ren and she discovers her powers, and these powers are all consuming because she basically has a god inside of her and can channel the god's power, which is fire. So she has to battle this god constantly, and she becomes also kind of an opium addict because she cannot control this god. So throughout the vast majority of this book, we followed this character who we really liked in the first book because of how strong she seemed and how unapologetic she was, and how she really fought for who she is and what she wanted. And then we kind of meet her in this book and she's a completely different person, but it makes sense and I understand why it needed to be so. I'm happy that it turned around in the last part, and I really ended up liking it. I gave this 3.75 stars out of 5. So these are all the books I wanted to talk about today. As I said, I'm gonna have another video where I wrap up the rest of the books I read in July, together with some 2 others I'm reading currently. So let me know what you think about the ones I talked about. And yeah, I guess I'll leave you soon because I need to start making some dinner, because we're gonna end up eating very late and we don't want that. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.